guys could just request the mic for a question.
Bruce, just what are your thoughts of putting Jake with Charlie? Was it the chemistry they've shown on the PK?
A little bit. They played together in the past, so it was an in-game decision. Steve obviously moving past up would see how it goes with Jake on the right. I think Charlie and Smitty haven't generated a lot lately, so it's just moving a few guys around, maybe some new line mates. You know, we've done that in the past, and we try to get back to what we think will work best long term. But I mean, last in the playoffs, right? So it's stay in the moment, and so that was the thinking. And they have been good on the PK together. They've been good 3-on-3 in overtime together. So they do have a little chemistry. So it's something we always knew we could go to, and hopefully they would continue 5-on-5, right? So that's a bit of the thinking. Now, whether Jake goes to the left or the right, it'll be his call. He's been on the right most of the year. When you go back and forth, I think most guys can handle it if they've done both. He has, but that'll be up to him because Nos, quite honestly, has been center all year, so for him, right or left won't matter. We have used him on right late game situations. The odd time we popped him up to the right side when I think Pasta was out, missed some games there a recent time ago. So for him, it shouldn't be a huge adjustment either. So that was the thinking. Follow the rules.
I know. You talked a little bit yesterday just about like hitting adversity sooner rather than later, and obviously nobody wants to be in the down 2-0. But what are some things you can take away from kind of having to pull some things out early in the playoffs or early in the series as opposed to kind of being able to have a cakewalk through?
Yeah. I mean, a cakewalk would be awesome, but I think that's a pipe dream for most teams this time of year. You might get the odd game where things go your way, but I think guys should be ready for adversity in game all the time. A bad call, a puck might bounce off a ref and go, you know what I mean? Different things that you don't normally anticipate. So guys should be ready for that. As a staff, you have to work through those things as well. You can't get caught up in those. Our adversity came, as you said, being down 2-0. The big picture, we need to win. And like I said, our guys have been through some of that in the past. We talked about that last night, right? Some of our veteran guys have been there. So I think their words carry a lot of meaning when it's not just words. They've been it. They've lived it. So I think guys can have a calmness about them because those guys have been there and experienced it. So and for us to experience it early, I don't know when the best time is. I'd love to experience it in the Stanley Cup final. I mean, that's our goal. But to get through it early here a little bit, we got through one game, right? We're still behind. So we're still facing adversity. We need to, we need to continue to get better to get a win tomorrow. So that's the way I look at it now.
For Chris Wagner, did game 82 in the regular season make the difference for him to be considered one of the extras, or because of his experience, was he always considered an extra?
Both. It's both. He came up and we had a number of different players in the lineup in Toronto that we were evaluating in a very, very short term. Some of those guys had an intensive schedule, Sophia like us down in Providence. They'd played, I think, anywhere from 4 or 5 games, like ours, 5 and 7. That was our 5th game in 7 days. And some of our guys in that lineup played all of them. And some of the guys from Providence that came up, I think, had played most of them. So we knew that it wasn't going to be ideal. And Chris just showed a willingness to get involved and play to his strengths, right? We're evaluating on players. Okay, if someone gets hurt or we need a boost, can you go in and do what your resume says you can do? And Chris showed that for sure. We didn't expect him to go in and score a hat trick. It's not what that'd be awesome, but it's not what we're expecting of him. So he played to his strengths better than most, and so we knew that we had that. There's a guy that had willingness. He wasn't bitter because he didn't get called up all year and say, well, I'm here just as a fill-in, I'm not going to play, because that happens from time to time. We'd like to think it wouldn't. Guys are high character in our organization, but it has happened. And he didn't have that attitude at all. He's like, I'm going to, earn my spot if there is one. And sure enough, game 3, there was one. Now, we also had seen him play the playoffs for the Bruins for a few years, so we knew that as well, that he's going to give it his all. So I'd say it was both. I think that was the kind of the icing on the cake that, hey, he wants to be here. He showed he wants to be here no matter how his year went, and it's a credit to him.
And really quick, did the fourth line give you then what you were looking for between the hits Lazar had and everything?
Puck possession. I think they drew some penalties. They were hard to play against. They're always involved in the kill. Lazar had a shorty opportunity. Our kill was We didn't dig any out of our net, and I don't know how much Fleggy and Wags contributed in that they have in the past, but Lazar certainly did, and we know the other guys can both do it if we get into trouble in that area. So I just like their overall demeanor and how they approach the game, their physicality, the willingness to take a hit, puck possession, kind of grind the other team down. It's, we anticipated a long series going into this. Coming out of Carolina, we certainly that was our game plan to make sure we made it one, and last night was a step in that direction, and they did some of that to make sure that, those things, that they do have an effect both in the immediate term and in the long term.
Bruce, first, how's Hampus feeling?
He was in there today. He's feeling better. He won't play tomorrow, but he's feeling better. He's here.
And then before it makes that block on Sveshnikov on the PK.
Which one?
Yeah, which one? Right. But it looks like you're relatively okay with that opportunity rather than firing away from the point with guys in front.
Well, I think all year we've fronted the elbow shooters. Our D is supposed to get out there. That's why you'll see a lot of blocks on probably from Carlo for sure, because he's a big body, and Forbert. It's a bit of their job responsibility, something they do well. Kevin Miller did it well for years. Zdeno Chara did it. So playing to their strengths has allowed us to close off a bit of the interior. Probably more the bumper is what we'd like to take away. I think D'Angelo's going to fire some wristers from the top. That's a bit of their 5-on-5 mentality that bleeds into the PP. We know that. We'd like to front that shot, but you can't take away everything and still, not allow pucks into the bumper. So there's always some give and take, and I think that's been our structure most of the year. And we'll adjust if we start getting beat by a lot of those shots. Aho scored one the other day from there. Now it's coming out of a 5-on-3, so maybe guys weren't set. It's a little different alignment. I think Charlie was still kind of in a 5-on-3. Charlie McAvoy in front of the net posture as opposed to coming out, so it probably limited Linus's vision, but in general that's a shot that we expect our D to challenge. And I guess where we'd like to do, Fluto, is push it out as far away from the net as possible without them creeping in. Now that when fatigue sets in and you don't get clears, then that's when that shot gets closer and closer to your net, because guys are compact, they don't have the energy to get out, and so that's the one thing you got to guard against.
And then also, did you see Curtis express more of his game playing center than right wing?
Yeah, I think last year when we brought him in, we used him there, and there's a little more creativity in his game when he goes to the middle. I think any guy would tell you that. I think Freddie, in the short time he's been on at the middle, would tell you he'd prefer you get a little more room to handle pucks and maybe make some plays. So, I mean, we're aware of that. Just we can only, we have our top three, and the fourth is, I think Nos has a little more experience, so someone had to move, and we just chose Laser.
Just real quick, Bruce, because I'm curious. This way. Speaking of Forbert, like you said, which block did he have? But I went back and looked at him. He took one off the stick, skate, right? And then the last one looked like it was so painful. And I know you say you need guys to make those kind of plays, but for those players, how do they have to be wired just to take those kind of the pucks off the body, off the foot? And it just looks like a tough mindset to have. Anyway.
I mean, you have to have a certain amount of fearlessness to play that role. I mean, because trust me, you have padding, obviously, but the puck hurts when it hits you in certain spots. Not every time, but it hurts. And I think guys just learn to shake it off and know that that's an asset they can bring that maybe other guys can't. And some guys are naturally gifted with the puck on their stick and can bring value there. And power play guys, other guys are more, okay, PK is important, defending is important. That's how I got to make my living. And that's how I got to make my living. So are they wired differently? I think so. And yet they enjoy it. They love eating pucks. Carlo's like that. Kevin Miller was like that. The guys that can stay healthy doing that to me is the fortunate part of it, because getting hit in the wrong spot a lot of times it happened. We're talking about Wagner in the playoffs a couple of years ago in the hand, right? So that's what took him out. So he's another guy that ate pucks. Lazar's pretty good at that. He doesn't get, what I mean? So they have an ability to block a shot without exposing areas that maybe their ankle or something that might get hurt. So, or they're, like I said, a bit fortunate in those situations. But every good team, if you're going to have a good PK, is going to have those guys eventually. You need guys that are willing to do that. It affects the mindset of the shooter as well. Even if you don't block it, you're always like, oh, this guy's in my face, I got to shoot around him, and it alters their shot. And I think that's what happened a little bit as the game went on with their elbow guys on that, the one-timer left shots on that side. They became a little bit off net after a while because every shot was getting blocked. Yeah, there's ice bags, and I think you'll see them getting a pat in the back from the guys, because that's not a stat that anybody's reporting on a lot after the game, right? It's not a sexy part of the game. It's shot blocks or takeaways, things like that. And so when you see a number like 9, it's like, wow, that's, usually a guy like him probably averages 3 or 4, but 9 certainly means we're killing too many penalties for one thing, but that's a lot in one game, and I think guys appreciate that in the locker room, because it does hurt, and it's an ugly, or not an ugly, but it's not a glorious part of the game by any means, but a necessary part.
Brad had mentioned last night that he felt more engaged than he had in I don't know how long, but how much of that do you attribute to just the reunion with Pasternak on 5-on-5? I know they play on power play all the time, but just, I mean.
Well, they haven't been on the power play a lot. They're going in the end, right? Pasta missed 8 or 9 games, so some of that is refreshing to have that consistently. I think one of the other things, Steve, is it's playoff hockey in the Boston Garden or TD Garden, and I think that gets you going too. It's that time of year that probably helps them. Scoring a goal, then now that's the icing on the cake for him to sort of, okay, I'm back type of thing, because Brad is a confident guy. Some would even call him beyond confident. So it's nice to see that back. I don't know if it ever completely left, but it appears that way. It appeared that way, right, for a little while, and only he can answer that. But whatever the case is, we need him to be that confident guy.
Last one, Juliana.
Coach Juliana Mazza with Channel 7. I think I have the fun fluff question for you.
Okay.
Can you talk about playing here at home and just how important and crucial the fans are when you guys are here inside the Garden?
Well, it's always been great here, in my time here, even before that. I mean, it gives the guys a lift. I just talked about it with Steve about Marshy. I think the guys that are the leaders of the team, the guys that are expected to carry the team, when they get the crowd behind them, it just gives you a little extra boost. And I think this time of year, guys are dialed in no matter what, but any extra advantage you can have, let's take it. They were loud in Carolina. I'm sure they helped their team. We need them loud here. And, that's that time of year. So keep bringing it.
Thank you.
Yep. Yes, that's the plan. There's a few guys that stayed off today, mostly maintenance days, so that's the plan, yeah.